Hi everyone. Just want to do a quick short video today on drag factor. Um, so I'm probably talking to I'm not sure how many percent. Okay, honestly. So anyone that's watching this, whether obviously if you're in the rowing circles, you'll know a little bit about like the drag factor, what it is, what it does on the row machine. For anybody else, so if you're new to this, if you've been recommended to come and have a watch, do some sessions and that sort of thing, or even if you just want to have a think yourself about the drag factor on the Concept 2 machine, we're just going to have a little bit of a yarn about it now. So, drag factor, what is it? It's just basically resistance. That's whether you've got all the air staying in the flywheel or whether all the air is escaping. Okay, and you can adjust it, and it feels so different at either ends of the spectrum. Okay, to find out what your drag factor is, just click on the menu button, go to more options, and at the very top it says display drag factor. Now roll along for a little bit on what you're normally used to and see what your numbers say. Okay, now yes, Concept 2 is one of the most reliable machines in the world, calibration wise. Very, very rarely is there a machine that has gone AWOL with calibration, okay? And most of the time it's because the air in the fans here gets full of dust and it can really muck up with the drag factor setting. That's the only way, okay? But also, if you've got a machine in your gym or your club and you go, wow, I normally use a 3 at my gym on these new machines, and I went somewhere else and I was using 7. It's probably because it's dusty, and there's stuff inside it, so the air can't escape out of our mesh on the top or the side. So, what is my drag factor? Okay, what's my drag? Now, Olympic athletes, probably talking mainly the men, anywhere from 125 to 140, I would say. New Zealand, 130. All the guys have to test on 130, so we did all our training on 130, and that for me is just on the 6 basically. Um, and no rhyme or reason, no idea why that was chosen, but it's probably a real midpoint between very heavy, very light. Okay. Now, there's age, there's sex, there's strength, there's technique, there's a whole lot of things that come into figuring out what your drag factor should be. Okay. And the only real way to find that out yourself is to just do a little bit of testing on it. So, my recommendation of what you want to do and find out is you need to do a couple of minutes at certain settings. Okay, so I don't want to be like overly generic or anything like that, but I'm talking school kids, anyone, crikey, sort of 18 and under. I would say between 100, 120 for the guys. Maybe if you can come up around this 130, awesome. And then, yeah, I'm pretty sure the ladies are running 115 to 120 in the elite team, I think definitely the New Zealand team. So I would say, ladies, you're talking around that sort of area. But as I say, I'm putting some figures out there from what I know, but then we're going to go to the other end of the scale, and I know that most people in CrossFit, some really big guys are doing their stuff on 10, okay? And they can because they're very, very strong. They're probably not doing long distance pieces. And that's another factor that comes into it as well. If you were just going to do a minute, I would say push it up a little bit higher if you possibly can, because yes, the resistance against your rate and everything can obviously you got to produce a little bit more watts. Yeah, so that's the thing with the drag is there's so many factors involved in you choosing what you are, because if you're very easy to get rating, then you don't need the drag factor very high. If you do find it quite hard to get rating because you're stiff, you've got a bit more strength in your muscles, that sort of thing, yes, you want to have your drag factor a little bit higher, So then you're offsetting not having to rate as high with using your strength. Okay, so we're using the strengths and weaknesses of different people. So how do you find what works for you? That's what I'm trying to get at, but I keep going round and round circles. You've pretty much got to do a couple of minutes at each setting. Okay, so you find your drag factor. Now, if you've got erg data, if you've got the app erg data, which on my channel, obviously, I've been harping on about it with people. So if you've got your phone and you've got it set up on the cradle, on the second screen, on the left, it says drag factor. Okay, so what you can do is you can go, right, I'm going to row and I'm going to do 2 minutes and I'm going to set it on to 3. And so you do a good warm up, whatever you normally do, and then you do a couple of minutes on 3 and you go, okay, does it feel too fast? Yep, okay, it does feel a bit fast, whatever. Bump it up to 4. Okay, how does that feel? Does that feel pretty good? Okay, yep. Go up to 5. Okay, what does that feel like? Up to 6. What does that feel like? Up to 7. Okay, and then up to 8. And it will be getting heavier and heavier as it goes up. That's 10 minutes of workout. So if you wanted to, you could do 1 minute, but I would say you probably need a couple of minutes at each setting to find out. And then ultimately, you want to actually come back down that as well, because as you get tired, and you've been getting slowly, heavier and heavier with resistance, then bang it back down again and look at what the drag factor says on your erg data as you come down. So it'll come down and it might say 160, and then you come down to 150, and then you get a feeling of it, 140, and all the time sit at a consistent rating, whether it's 20 or 22, or if you want to do it at 24, or whatever it is that you sort of chug along at with your training, do that, okay? And by the end of that, you should come down to it and go, I didn't like it at 8, I didn't like it at 3, maybe I didn't like it at 7 either, but I actually do like it between 4 and 5, So then all of a sudden, now you've got a number that you can actually start looking at and start working towards, okay? Because there is no legal setting. There's nothing that you have to set records. This is a part of this machine is we can do some speed work stuff, which we'll do a bit later on, down on 1, and you can just pump the legs down as fast as you possibly can to keep up with the speed of the machine. Or you go up to 10 and all the air disappears, and then it's like, whoa, that's heavy, okay? So, as I say, finding out what works for you, start at a number, start below what you've normally been going on, and every minute or two, just change it with your handle, go up. If you've got the erg data app, that's awesome. If not, it's going to be a little bit of leaving the screen on the display your drag factor, and then just having a watch and just rowing for a couple of minutes, and then changing it, looking at the number, and then rowing for a bit, then changing, doing a number, okay? And then once you've found something that you think could be worth, for you, then start doing some practice on it, okay? So we'll start doing some pieces, start doing some training, some long stuff, and figure out what it is, because I do know that, in some of the comments on the channel, people do have the drag a little bit higher because they feel like if they're not, they miss the front, because yes, it will be a little bit harder off the front. So if that's the feeling you're after, that's fine, okay? If it works for you, if you feel that connection, that sort of thing out the front, that's awesome. If you feel it too heavy and you want to use it lighter and you like having a bit quicker on the legs, awesome, okay? So there's a technique that we try and do on the rowing machine, which ultimately is the legs driving the body and the arms hanging on and, drawing into the body. But the sequencing that it happens, everybody is completely different, okay? I'm just trying, every time we do it, I try and get you to think about the sequence in probably the most optimal way, because ultimately the legs are your biggest muscle, and into your back muscles, into your lats, if you go all through that sequence, like you were doing a clean off the floor with the barbell, that's the sequence. Same in rowing. The big muscles work first, the little muscles are only hanging on and just holding on to the finish of things, okay? So some people lift off the front, that's fine, If that's what you're doing now, it'd be good if you could do a little bit more legs to drive it, but if it's working for you, you're getting a good workout, that's cool. We'll try and work on those things as we go along, and it might never change. I've seen a lot of people on water rowing, and they row with some pretty horrific styles, and they win. Okay, I wouldn't say we were the prettiest when we were rowing, but we won. Okay, so that's it. You just got to find something that works for you, gets you some good times, allows you not to get injured. Ultimately, that's the thing. We always want to do these in this sequence so that we're not getting injured. You know, we're not really loading up with our backs. We're using the legs. By the stage the backs come in, we've taken a lot of that load and it's just carrying on. Okay, so that's what happens with the drag as well. So what's my drag? It's for you to find out. And as I say, that's just a short series, 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes if you can. If you can do like 20 minutes, it'd be perfect. Go up and then come down. Find a number, sit on it, train on it. Maybe you need to change it by 5 or 10 drag after a while, and you want to have a look at it again. Awesome. Okay, and all it is just finding out what works for you, and yeah, and that's it. So have a go. Have a go with that changing, and then just see what it actually does, because you might find that there's a better place for you. And as I say, I think you can go through like 100 drag. So it doesn't need to be a round number. It could be 117. No rhyme or reason, but that 117 is your number. That's what you want to do it on. Okay, and so find that, and then whenever machine you go to around the world, any gym you go to, set it on here, because this might be slightly different. Okay, whatever it says on the machine is right. Don't rely on where the handle is. Whatever it says on the machine is what it's actually going to be. Okay, so give that a whirl. Hope that answers a few questions. If not, just leave some more comments in the section, and I'll answer as much as I can. But otherwise, yeah, just here to help, here to get everyone progressing on the row machine. Awesome. What's my drag?